Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Azwa bin Shahidi, and today I will present to you my individual assignment. So, my individual assignment that I picked was Qotd protocol. So, before I start showing my server and client, my programming and stuff, let me talk a bit about Qotd. So the Qotd service is a member of the Internet Protocol Suite, defined in RFC 865. As indicated there, the Qotd concept predated the specification when Qotd was used by mainframe sysadmins to broadcast a daily quote on request by a user. It was then formally codified both for prior purposes as well as for testing and measurement purposes. A host may connect to a server that supports the Qotd protocol on either TCP or UDP port 17. To keep the quotes at a reasonable length, RFC 865 specifies a maximum of 512 octets for the quote. Although some sources indicate that the Qotd service is rarely enabled and is in any case often firewalled to avoid ping-pong attacks, interest continues in the pre-existing purposes of serving quotes, as can be seen with Web Engine. Current testing and measurement of IP network is more commonly done with ping and traceroute, which are more robust adaptation of the Echo protocol RFC 862, which predated the attempt at Qotd standardization. So, from the Wikipedia, we can to summarize it, Qotd is basically a protocol where the client, which is us or anybody else that's using one computer, right, or one PC or anything, and will ask the server, which is another PC or another computer, which will ask the server for a quote. So, for example, you if you want if from for example from the client side, you type in quote, and then the server will read it, and then will send you a quote, and then we'll send the quote to the client. So that's the gist of it. That's the simplified version of it. So now moving on to my server and client, my individual assignment. So here, this one is my server, the individual assignment. This one is my server, and this one is my client. Right. So let me run it first. Alright. As you can see, my server socket is created, bind to port 444, and it is listening to the client or any client that wants to connect to that port. Now, from the client side, right, the client socket is created, connected to the server, and from the server side, after listening, after accepting after listening and then have the client connect to it, the connection accepted from this address, which is this. Now, so Qotd works by, if you, for example, put a from the client side quote, right, and then enter, the server will send a quote, in which is server from the server will send a quote. So you can see here, server, the quote is, there is no tomorrow, only today. Server, the quote is, you have every right to go insane, just come back when you're done. And from the server side, server quote send, server quote send. As you can see, I did two quotes at the same time. So whenever you enter quote, it will send two quotes to you, not one. but for my coding I didn't like specify the variable like what client need to enter to get the quote. I just make it random, and I just make it like anything you type, they will print out the same quote. Like for example, if I type hello, right, it will print out the same quote. So that's a simplified. This is my version of the Qotd, which is a really simplified version of it, where the client will type any message, and then the server will send the quote to the client. Like my code for the protocol is really really simple. It's not complicated at all. Um, Unlike certain protocol in Qtd where there's some Qtd where if the, where they make it random, where they randomize the code that it will that will send to the client. Like for example, if you type in quote right quote, if you type in quote, the client type in quote, the server will randomize it and then send a random quote to the client. I didn't do that because I just didn't want to do that. And also there's also certain Qtd where if you enter like they set up one by one. If you enter like code one, it will send the server will read code one and then send what is in the code one. Like for example, there is no tomorrow, only today, right? That's code one, and then if you enter code two, it will send code two. You have every right to go insane, just come back when you're done. So that's like the advanced, like more advanced version of the QTD protocol. But my version is very very simple. Like if you enter even high, or just one word, it will print out the same code over and over again, which to me is already good enough and accomplish the goal of the Qtd protocol, which is just to print out quotes to you. That's all. I guess that's all for like system running, for the client server. Now entering for the credit. I did this assignment by not only I reference it mostly from my lab assignment. From my lab assignment, I mostly reference it from that. Like for the socket, right? I reference it mostly from this. Yeah, lab socket programming using C. And then there's some reference from my lecturer. He is kind enough to he gave like a server server.c file and a client.c file, and I just saw his like code and a bit, and then just I took some of his code and then edit and then like put in some of my own code inside the code. So mostly I just took it from from my lecturers, of course. So yeah, that's all for like the reference and all. And also, do keep in mind this is not like the optimized version of the Qtd. It's just the most simple form of Qtd protocol that there is, where you just have to type in any word and the code will just and then the server will just give you the code. That's all. That is the simplified version of it. So I guess that is all from me. Thank you for watching, and yeah, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice day, and God bless.